Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we got the pleasure of watching Tiberius 96 playing in a tank that only a mother could love. It is the LTG. This tier 7 Soviet light tank is an absolute freak in appearance. I mean, just look at this thing if I can actually manage to find it, because it's actually quite a nippy tier 7 light tank. Look at this absolute Frankenstein vehicle. Whoever designed this, in my opinion, it's a complete joke. Look at how the angling on the turret is. Look at the welds, they're horrendous. This big thing on the back that just wedges up, which prevents you from being able to side scrape in this tank. It is absolutely ugly. Just look at the top of the turret. It's just all slanted towards the commander's vision port, up towards the top / where you would get in and out of the tank. It is horrific, and from the front even the turret isn't even angled correctly. But just because a tank is ugly, does that mean that it's going to be absolutely awful? Well, that is certainly not the case with regards to the LTG. Now, I've played this thing on my main account a few times, and for some reason, every time I play it, I seem to have good games. Now, I'd just like to clarify, I've never had a game as good as Tiberius is going to have in this game. Spoilers. But the LTG, it just seems to surprise me every time. And I think what it comes down to is that it is a very low profile, and because the tank has a very low profile, that means that it has a very good camouflage rating. So if you get a concealment crew on this vehicle, and you combine it with a whole host of the new capacities, or capabilities I should say, for light tanks to increase their capacity to remain unspotted from their opponents in Equipment 2.0, then vehicles like this are doing very well in the current meta of things. So the LTG has the same gun that you will be accustomed to on a tier 6 medium tank. There's so many vehicles in the game that pretty much have the previous tier's gun. It seems to be Wargaming's rule of thumb if when they're trying to design light tanks. So they undergun them but give them better camo rating and better mobility and less armor. Kind of makes sense, and I feel that it's kind of working, at least, unless you're playing the British light tanks, as many of you will know. But those are, look, I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole different can of worms that I don't have time to open up in this video. But this gun, the 85mm that you will be accustomed to on the tier 6 medium tanks, is actually quite surprising when it gets going. It has 144mm of standard pen with 180 alpha damage. Its premium pen is also 194 with good shell velocity, nearly 1,200 meters a second, which means that you can clutch shot things on the move like Tiberius is doing here. But Tiberius used a regular round rather than a gold round there. But the real surprising thing about this tank, and one thing that I love to see Tiberius trying to use to maximum efficiency all the way through this replay, is that the high explosive rounds on this vehicle have 44mm of penetration, and they do 300 damage, meaning that the damage per minute of this vehicle goes up from the 1,800 up to near the 3,000 mark. It's absolutely outrageous if you can manage to penetrate the high explosive rounds on this vehicle. And also, unlike a lot of light tanks at tier 7, well, it doesn't have the largest amount of ammunition, it's got enough. But Tiberius is going to be putting that to the test in this replay as well. Okay, so Tiberius has spawned in on the best possible map for a light tank in the game. I think it has to be Prokhorovka, although some people would say Malinovka. But I feel like Malinovka's one of those dream maps where if you can manage to get into one of the bushes towards the center and all of the enemies are idiots, then it can go very well. I feel like light tanks have more opportunity to be consistent on Prokhorovka, which is why I would put it slightly above there, slightly above Malinovka for when you're trying to do some of your light tank missions. I wonder if Tiberius is trying to do any light tank missions here. He is actually doing the tracking mission, so maybe that's why he was trying to go for the tracking shot there on the SU. But a good knowledge of the weak point of the T-20 at HTC allows him to be able to shut down the tier 7 reward American tank destroyer. Alright, so Tiberius is definitely going to have a case of when the team just won't help you here. They've obviously helped him a little bit so far. 1,800 spotting is not a bad deal. But considering how close that T-28 HTC got to his tank, and the fact that he managed to pretty much get into close quarters combat for the bush that we saw Tiberius lurking in, yeah, this team doesn't really fill me with confidence. Although, now that most of his more dangerous vehicles, like the Stridsvagn S1 and the Su-122-44 are gone, it's really him, an Eagle, and an Su-100 who's kind of clinging on to life at the back of the map. So Tiberius decides to take it upon themselves to be able to venture forwards. Now he's going to do a really good job of snaking their way through these bushes. If you can manage to do that. Oh, that was scary. How close were you there? You were very close, probably about 60 meters, but did not get spotted because you have to go within 50 meters of the tank for that to work. Tiberius, so confident in the camera rating of the LTG, that he actually fires at the UDES even though they're only about 100 meters away. And yeah, thank you very much, Eagle, I would be saying right now. Tiberius, you're doing the right thing by getting out of that situation. The Eagle just bumbling into Tiberius's very sneaky Soviet light tank, getting spotted and now getting ripped apart. But it provides a great distraction for Tiberius to be able to take it upon themselves to be able to shut down the Jackson as well. And now with the UDES firmly in their sights, they're starting to load gold rounds. Now this is a complete waste, Tiberius, but in this situation, can you really be too concerned when you're up to 2,400 spotting? 4 kills in a game like this, and you'll see that Tiberius actually decides, okay, I won't fire the gold round, the Cromwell's sitting still. That's 375 damage from a high explosive 85mm round. Tiberius, did you just max roll that shell? Pretty darn close, if not actually max rolling. That is an outrageous roll for a high explosive round. 300 rolling up for 375. Good use of knowledge of the different capabilities of some of the Soviet tanks. A lot like the T-34-85M. If you do have that vehicle, take not a huge amount of high explosive rounds, but take a good slug of them and use them against those very lightly armored tanks. And that can allow you to just have massive impact. Tiberius was able to do more damage than he would have done on average, or the same damage that he would have done on average with 2 armor-piercing rounds there. And that's probably going to make the amount of ammunition that they have in the vehicle go a long way. So I don't know what this OI is doing, whether the OI is AFK. No, it doesn't look like the OI is actually AFK, just moving the turret up and down a little bit, maybe trying to shoot at this T-77, not realizing that there's an LTG wailing on the side of the vehicle. And right now, this looks like the most tasty Japanese snack ever. That was just like a whole platter of sushi there for Tiberius to be able to just nom 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 up. And that is what I call experience. Now up to 2,100 damage and 2,900 damage upon detecting and also damage upon tracking. And I bet you Tiberius is also thinking about doing LT4 here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tiberius is going to try and destroy the tracks of his opponents as well. But in this kind of a situation where you're up 4 kills and in a 4 versus 4 situation, can you really afford to just kind of chill? Should you really just try and go for the tracks, or should you try and go for the kill here? So this Progetto has absolutely no idea that Tiberius is shooting them in the side right now. Maybe gunning down at the T-77 who was last spotted. And this is very brave. Tiberius is taking the chance that the Progetto is no longer spotted in that location. And Tiberius, you are going very deep into your ammunition loadouts here. So Tiberius manages to spot the Progetto, makes a very good adjustment. I was just about to critique Tiberius' decision to fire when he wasn't behind the tree, because in this scenario, this is really what sorts the men from the boys, is that by pulling back behind the tree, spotting the Progetto, and then going in front of the tree and shooting through the tree, that means the Progetto's never going to be able to spot them. And Tiberius secures their 5th kill of the game. Now up to 2,800 damage. This is 6,000 combined for a tier 6 light tank. And you can see why I've titled this video When the Team Just Won't Help. Even though Tiberius has been spotting out so much against the Progetto, so much against the Carnarvon, the team just aren't really getting in those clean shots. Now this Carnarvon Action 10 doesn't seem to be using coated optics on their vehicle, and even though the vehicle has a pretty darn good base view range, they're still not able to spot Tiberius even when they're firing, showing you just how good the camera rating of the LTG is because of that low profile. Maybe I should take back what I said about a tank that only a mother could love. Maybe I can see a lot of people actually quite enjoying playing this tank. If, of course, you manage to get into Prokhorovka and you get into a fortunate situation. Okay, so right now, one of the most deadly tanks at tier 8, a Borask, sneaking up behind the T-77. Clearly that Borask is on a collision course with finishing off the T-77. So, unable to penetrate, fires a regular round there that does 100 and, misses one of the rounds and then hits a high explosive round that doesn't penetrate. Oh, disaster! Now Tiberius wastes 2 of their remaining 7 shells, now only down to 5 APCR rounds left. Fires 1 on the move with complete confidence, hitting the EZ-8. Now with 4 rounds left in the tank and 3 enemy vehicles to deal with, alone with an Indian panzer against some rather dangerous tanks. However, undeterred, Tiberius decides, I want to secure the kill on that EZ-8, and actually takes their first damage of the game from the EZ-8, finishing off the tier 6 American medium tank. Okay, now this is getting scary. Even though Tiberius is up to 6 kills, a top gun, and not the best matchup for this vehicle, Tiberius is now down to 3 rounds of ammunition, having to deal with the Carnarvon Action 10 up on the hill, and the Borask, who have 3 kills apiece. Alright, Tiberius, how are you going to manage this? You've really taken it upon yourself to carry your team this game. You've put them on the back. But you've run out of ammo. They got too heavy. You literally weren't given the capacity to be able to take them the final way across the finish line. And so Tiberius is definitely going to have to get the Indian Panzer on his team, working with him to be able to take down the Carnarvon Action 10 and the Borask, because that Indian Panzer is going to have to pen at least a couple of shells if they're going to want to have to do this, because Tiberius literally doesn't have enough ammunition to be able to win. We can see all the way through the game that Tiberius has been making very good use of the assistance key, asking for fire against targets, letting his team know that they should fall back, just pinging the most important positions for the enemy tanks. Oh, here we go. This is it. Can the Indian Panzer manage to turn the turret around and be able to get a shot? Okay, that's a really good sign. I like it. Tiberius looks over his shoulder and goes, is this Indian Panzer really here? Do I actually stand a chance, considering that they haven't actually managed to pick up a kill so far in this game? And considering this game's been going on for 12.5 minutes now, yeah, I would probably be wondering if the Indian Panzer was there. But I love the fact that Tiberius doesn't seem to be getting frustrated. They are showing immense restraint against this frustration. I would be probably very, very frustrated at this Indian Panzer wanting to sit there on 1,000 hit points and now clearly letting the Borask into the cap circle. I don't think the Carnarvon Action 10 would have been able to make it there. And in fact, now that we see 2 inside the cap circle, that means they're both trying to make the cap. They don't want to try and find the LTG. They don't want to try and find the Indian Panzer. And so they're going to go and cap there. Now, Tiberius asks the Indian Panzer to help him. Tiberius says, let's capture the base, or let's defend the encounter cap circle from these 2 marauding premium tanks on the enemy team. And with 3 rounds to his name, Tiberius is about to see whether he's going to be able to take this one down, or if it's going to be a heartbreak. Alright, so the Indian Panzer makes their way in towards the cap circle. Tiberius is going to show you a lovely little spot here. I had not considered this one myself. Being able to ramp up there to be able to get a spot on your opponents. Unfortunately, unable to spot anything, but at least maybe able to distract the enemy team away from the Indian Panzer that are advancing in. Okay, so here we go. Carnarvon's on 906 hit points. Looks like they fire a high explosive round, or they miss the Indian Panzer, who actually puts 265 into the Carnarvon Action 10. That's a great start. The Carnarvon Action 10 seems to be firing high explosive rounds back at the Indian Panzer, but we've got to worry about where the Borask is. The Borask is clearly in the cap circle. They were a minute ago, and the cap circle hasn't gone down, meaning the Borask has all the cap points. Now, Tiberius focuses clearly on the French auto-loading medium tank. The Borask puts 1 round in. Tiberius uses the second shot to shut down the Borask, now with only 1 shot left in his tank, and 177 is going to be a 50-50, and Tiberius nails it. Absolutely wild. Does a shake of the mouse there in pure excitement at killing the final vehicle in this game with the final remaining shell in the tank. And I think Tiberius has to give a big thank you in the end to Stick Boy. And while Stick Boy didn't really fill me with confidence as to whether they were going to get through this situation, Tiberius, while he killed half of the enemy team in the mid-tier light tank and put his team basically on his back, he still needed Stick Boy to prop him up to be able to get across the finish line and take down an incredible victory. One of the best I've ever seen in a tier 7 light tank. So mother of medals here, Tiberius seems like he took them all. A Radley Walters medal for picking up that 8th kill, and a Faden's medal, one of the most unusual medals in World of Tanks, and that is for destroying the final remaining tank on the battle with the final remaining shell in your tank. An incredible one, and it's usually one of the seals of approval for an exciting replay as well. And I love the fact that this was not a fabricated Faden's medal. How many times have we seen people cheekily fire off one of their remaining shells to when they know they're in a safe situation to win the 1 versus 1, to be able to penetrate the final shell to pick up the Fadens. This one was a real one. This was a legitimate Fadens medal, and it was very exciting because of it. Also, Tiberius picks up an Orlix medal for destroying 2 or more enemy vehicles that were higher tier than them, a patrol duty medal for spotting at least 6 enemy vehicles that were damaged by his team, and a high caliber medal for the 5,057 damage that he dealt. And I love how calm Tiberius was in this battle. Absolutely stoic. Just realizing, getting angry about the situation or getting angry about how their team is playing is not ever going to help. One of the big skills in World of Tanks is quickly being able to figure out what your team are probably going to do and then adjusting your play to be able to work with them. And Stick Boy in his Indian Panzer fired 33 rounds this game, hit 9 and penetrated 6, of which 3 of those were at the end against the Carnarvon. And while a lot of people would laugh at statistics like these, they did their job and they finished 3rd on experience, and they allowed Tiberius to be able to take this one down. And so Tiberius, congratulations to you. This was one of the best games I've ever seen at tier 7, and I am so impressed with your mental fortitude and your restraint in this high pressure situation. You didn't all caps rage at your teammate. I'm guilty of that occasionally when I become really frustrated. You kept calm, you kept cool, you kept focused, and look at the result. Super impressive, and I think a lot of players, including myself, have a lot to learn from you. And Tiberius, thank you so much for uploading your replay on the What Replays website and putting QB in the titles, so I know that you wanted to be featured on the channel. And I hope all of you out there watching this cracking game of World of Tanks today enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know if you've got any tips and tricks for trying to be able to get players on your side. As Tiberius calls it, motivating my team to win. I love that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.